Hello, everybody. It's me.
And me also. You
No,
know,
it's
the
not.
me's. Like
It
me
is not
brawler
true.
and me gunner.
He is not here. He is not here. It is just me. I'm here. It's me. Hi.
I'm just a figment of his imagination.
Yes. And I want to be like you. But today, we're going to start off this 1,000 subscriber special movie review marathon with Hoodwinked. This was requested by a couple people because apparently some people at Big Idea, a company that we know a little bit about and kind of have a little bit of a fondness for, actually ended up working on after they left.
Yep. And Hoodwinked is a very interesting movie, just kind of to think about, because, like, the world kind of forgot it existed.
Yeah, and it was huge when it came out in 2005. It was one of the big animated films, despite the fact it was originally an independent film, but then it was picked up by the Weinstein Company, and then most of the dialogue was redubbed by people like Anne Hathaway and Jim Belushi. But hey, Andy Dick and Patrick Warburton got to stay.
Yep.
So the film was a huge success, and then it just disappeared after the sequel came out. But we're not here to talk about that, because that's a nightmare.
Yeah, just long story short, the sequel's bad. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. But you're right, the world did forget Hoodwink existed for a while. Film just vanished.
Yeah.
So what's Hoodwinked about?
Well, it's kind of like the whole mixing fairy tales together and like nursery rhymes together into kind of a more bigger story, a la like Shrek or Chicken Little, even. Kind of.
One of those was good.
Yeah. But that kind of style of thing, of combining these already known stories and making some completely different story out of pre-existing stories. It's like Into the Woods. Except for much different than Into the Woods. It's actually, sure, some... I mean, hey, Little Red Riding Hood is in Into the Woods. So, yeah.
Maybe the Into the Woods ripped this off. So, yeah, it's basically Red Riding Hood, Patrick Warburton, the Wolf. It's really just Patrick Warburton doing his Patrick Warburton impression. The Woodsman and Granny all being investigated for a big crime going on because apparently a bunch of the forest goodies are being stolen, and they think that one of them might be the Goody Bandit, as it's called, so they go revealing how they went about their day and just throwing in a bunch of twists in there, and yes, it's a very strange film.
Yeah, the first... Well, like, most of the movie is composed of each of the main characters telling the same story from their different perspectives. So, first you get to hear, like, Red Riding Hood's story, and it's just kind of the typical, like, what you expect of the story. And then you see, like, everyone else's side of it, and you see, like, oh, that's why that happened, and that's why this happened, and everything like that. And it's actually pretty fun to watch like that.
Yeah, and what I like is the little touch that everybody is in everybody else's story, even if it's just for a couple seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all intertwined. Well, somewhat. Oh, we'll get to that. First, what did you think of Hoodwink? So you said you liked it, right?
Yeah, I did.
I realized as I just said it.
It's like... I think just the word I'd use to describe the watching experience was just... It was fun. It wasn't just this, like, blow out of the water fantastic thing, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was, like, just as good as I remember, because we really liked this movie when we were younger, and usually those movies never hold up, but it actually was maybe even a little funnier than it was when we were kids.
Yeah.
Specifically, the singing goat.
He was by far the best part of the movie.
Also, played by the guy who unleashed Dorbies onto our mortal world. He will never be forgiven. But the singing goat is just one of the many great humorous parts in there. Another thing I really like is that the woodsman kind of has no reason to be here.
Right.
It's on purpose.
Yeah. Like, he's just...
His story has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. Like, we mentioned how they're all intertwined, and it like connects to the other stories, but it's got very little to do with them. Like, of course, Red and Granny are related, and the wolf is, like, directly, like, part of the story. But the lumberjack he's just there and then happens to just stumble into their house. Like, by pure chance.
He's not even really a woodsman, he's an actor who got a callback.
Yeah.
So excited about it. And by the way, speaking of things that just kill us when we're older, that lizard who's the director is one of the best characters. Like, him and the goat.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of the jokes when I was a kid because I didn't think there were jokes, but now that we're into acting and stuff, oh, it makes so much more sense.
Right, all the callback jokes. Just like, I got a callback.
And no, don't talk. That's great.
Yeah.
Some of the songs are pretty good, like Top of the Woods is pretty catchy.
Yeah.
Albeit some of the pop songs they play in the background aren't really the best. Patrick Warburton, Andy Dick, even Benji Gaither, just a lot of them nail it here.
Yeah.
And as we've said, for the humor, there's like a lot of stuff for adults in here, surprisingly. Not like an abundance, but there is quite a bit of things.
Mm-hmm. And like just things that kids just don't really think of or pick up on, like we mentioned with like the callback stuff and all that.
Or the reference to Saturday Night Fever with flippers.
Mm-hmm. Like
even the dialogue is...
I remember like the flipper thing. I thought it was funny when I was younger, just because like, oh look, it's a dancing frog. Like I didn't know why it was funny. It just was. But now like looking at it, we're like, oh, that's why it's funny.
Even the dialogue is really snappy in here. Like one of the first lines in the film actually got us to laugh out loud when we were rewatching it with the, "Wow, Granny, what big ears you have! Oh, the better to hear your many criticisms."
Are we just gonna sit around here talking about how big I've gotten?
It's Patrick Warburton, I think. Like he probably was the best actor in this whole thing because you could tell he was all into it. And I think there's a little bit of a difference between the people who were brought on early in production, like Benji Gaither, Andy Dick, or Patrick Warburton, and then the people who were brought on after the Weinstein Company picked it up, because if you look at all the ones that were brought on with the indie ones, they give, like, super energized, super goofy performances. But then the other ones that were brought on later, like Anne Hathaway or surprisingly Exhibit, who's not that bad of a voice actor, they do moderate success.
Yeah.
The only one that feels a little off is Jim Belushi as the woodsman. I don't know about you, but I kind of felt that one was a little off. What did you think?
I didn't particularly gather that myself, but I kind of like get what you're saying. Like, yeah.
Like, there are times where it just kind of feels like he's reading right from the script, but there are other times where he's like really into it.
I think maybe that also might just be part of the fact that the woodsman character is just extremely awkward.
That might be a part of it, because as much as he is like this big, lovable goofball guy, he doesn't know what he's doing a majority of the time.
Yeah, he's just
even when he's not in the story, like when he's selling schnitzel, like, or failing at being a pirate lumberjack guy.
Right, he's kind of just clueless, doing his thing, and just along for the ride.
Yeah, kind of like Keith. Darn should change his name, please.
Keith's another great character who is...
Yeah, even though he says nothing.
He has no significance to the story, but...
He leaves an impact, what can I say?
Yeah.
Now, there are two things when we rewatched it that we gathered that were kind of off about the movie. One, everyone knows, is the animation.
Yeah, that's no getting around it. I've had a lot of people say that, like, it's not like the movie itself is bad, but they just can't watch it because of the animation, which is not that, like, that's not that preposterous.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Video Brinkado levels, but it's not good. There are some good textures. Like, I think Flippers looks pretty decent.
Yeah, he does.
But when you get to characters like Boingo or like the Woodsman, they kind of look like they're made out of wood. No pun intended, or half pun, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised there's no Pinocchio in here. That probably would have looked great.
Right, yeah, because it would have just been wood.
Yeah, and then the other problem, this isn't as big of a problem, but there's going to be a spoiler here, but I don't know why you really care about Hoodwinked spoilers. Looking back, the Goody Bandit is so obvious.
Right. I mean, part of that's not entirely bad, like, but it was just like, really? Like,
I mean, they telegraph it to you right in the middle of Red's story. They basically show Boingo making an evil face and stuff, and it's
right.
You kind of get it from there. And you can try to pass him off as innocent and stuff in the Wolf and Granny's, but they basically tell you in the Woodsman one too, when he's like, oh, maybe there'll be a great big goodie shop one day and we could all go work for that little fella.
Right, yeah, it's like, at that point it's like, yeah.
But at least he's a twist villain that actually makes sense. And it was foreshadowed, albeit maybe a little too much.
Right.
So when we get to know his evil side, it actually makes sense.
Right, and on the topic of his evil side, he's a pretty funny villain.
Oh yeah. We're gonna blow the competition away! And I don't mean that as like a figurative speech. I mean, we're really gonna have to blow them away.
Like just how he's like, he talks about being like evil and all, like his evil lair and all, just so, like, happily.
Yeah, and with like his ski team villains, and he yells at one of them to change their name because it's not scary
right,
in the slightest.
It's not scary enough. Like, I don't know, the fact that, like, kind of what you were saying, like, with the whole twist villain thing, when we, like, get to know his evil self versus his innocent self, his personality, it's not just like, oh, I'm good, but now I'm evil. Like, I mean, he's, like, evil, yeah, but, like, it's still the same character. Like, you can like, from when he's quote-unquote good and from when he's evil, it's not like, oh, it's just, he's a different character now because he's got to be the villain now. He's still the same weird rabbit.
This is a relevant point, but it also kind of goes back to the animation. There are some nice touches that they give to Boingo. Like, he twitches a lot when he's acting nice, and, like, he's not comfortable doing it.
Right, yeah.
There's some kind of stuff like that I think are pretty nice touches. So there's good, like, little details. It's just how it looks. Also, I gotta say, there's a random point, but I looked at the soundtrack. I'm so glad they went with the shorter version of Top of the Woods, because it's actually much, much longer on the soundtrack. And it's, like, it's too much. I love the song, and I think it's just right, although the choreography is terrible according to The Wolf. But the one on the soundtrack is way too long.
Yeah, I would imagine. Speaking of, like,
kind of repetitive too.
Speaking of the soundtrack, though, it's worth mentioning that there's a musical of this.
Yeah, it's not an official one, but there is a musical of it. It's getting performed over here pretty soon, in a couple of months, actually. I really want to go see it, just to see why.
Right, like, it's such a strange choice for a musical. Like,
well, I mean, it technically is a musical.
I mean, yeah, the movie is
songs in it,
right? But still, it's just like such kind of an I wouldn't quite say obscure, but just I guess it's like a thing of the past. Like, excuse me.
It almost seems like kind of someone trying to rip off Shrek the musical, but like a little too late.
Right.
Well, we'll see how it is, because I went to that theater once. I was in one of their shows, and it was fine. It was the second time I did Avenue Q, and I kind of liked the first one a bit better. So I'm going to kind of see what the heck is going on with this one. But
yeah.
Hoodwinked itself, final thoughts.
I'd say, expanding on what I kind of said before, it's not something that's groundbreaking. It's not this, like, just epitome of cinematic art, but it's a fun watch. You just want to have a little bit of fun. It's a good movie to watch.
I agree exactly with that. It's not like anything spectacular, but it's not really trying to be. It's just trying to be fun.
Right. And I think, like I mentioned, that's just the one word that I would sum it up with. It's just fun.
Yeah. It's not something I'd watch over and over again, but I wouldn't mind showing my kids this, or going back to watch it every once in a while.
Right, yeah, like, when we watched it before this, that was the first time I'd watched it in a really long time, and I really enjoyed watching it. And
Yeah.
I can't say, like, if I would continue to enjoy it if I just watched it, like, a lot, but yeah, it's definitely worth the occasional watch.
It certainly is. Now, the sequel, that's just garbage, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll see you tomorrow, folks.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Gesundheit, farewell.